any better, you should hear our before show bickers. Holy crap. Planning. I want people to write in on what they're doing during quarantine. Roy's playing wood chips.
Making wood chips.
He's playing with wood chips. Playing in them after he makes them. That is a good idea, though, to, like, do a bunker and stuff. Why don't you pitch it that way? Here, I'm thinking that they're going to be playing wood chips, throwing it up like it's leaves.
That's because you don't know anything.
I'm a freaking girl! That's what I'd be doing in a pile of leaves.
Yeah, that's why I say you have no imagination when it comes to anything like that.
Whatever. Wow. This
So
is how I
wait,
get treated when I
so
come
wait,
in
are
here.
we eliminating the makeup with Stephanie?
Yeah, because now I'm mad.
I can't even get these. I guess the cell phone.
Because you're being rude.
Oh.
You're putting evil into the universe.
Well, somebody's got to do it. Oh, there's a fucking slide guitar music coming on. I would say.
You know what today is.
Well, we usually do Fast Friday, but this is Freaked Out Friday.
I like that. And my days are all blending.
Because people are just.
Blending.
I mean, it couldn't have got any worse than what happened last night. We're going to get into that.
What happened last night?
Oh, nothing too much. We're gonna have here in a few minutes. We're gonna have Mark Moyser. He's a constitutional attorney. Was a candidate for Secretary of State in the state of California in 2018. He has a very interesting take on this new little executive order that Gavin Newsom throwed out there on that. Dr. Kelly Victory, which we had on Wednesday, will be on here at the bottom of the hour to
I like her.
update her on the yes. At least there's one doctor in this freaking universe that's got some sanity going on there. But roll this now. This is the fun part of coronavirus coming up here. Have the video ready coming up here. So, and I don't know. Did it say which town this was in? I don't know. Whatever.
It didn't, but it sounds like it's back east by her accent.
It probably is. But some town mayor, they're having a hearing on coronavirus. So the mayor gets up to, as you have to do, everybody has to get up to use the toilet. So the mayor gets up to go to the bathroom, and the person takes over the meeting, whatever that they're talking, and they just happen to be talking about coronavirus for whatever reason. And
that's all people are talking about?
Yes, because, that's dominating the subject matter of just about everything.
Well, you can't talk about the game, so...
Yes. Yeah, the sporting report is...
Next week, I would like to cover some highlights of past sporting events and pretend like they're live. It'll be fun. Anyways.
Of that. No, when you get the video, roll the video. This is the mayor. He's leaving to go to the bathroom, and the lady that's taking over the meeting rolls like this.
Going to hit some of the highlights here in a minute. But the thing is that these deadly infections, there's something we can do about it. And what we can do is call on governmental representatives
She's cracking
that are
up
higher up the chain of
Stop right there. The mayor forgot to turn. He must have like we do. So we have remote microphones that you can take with you or walk around with on that. So he must have had he obviously he did not turn off his microphone while he is sitting on the commode doing this. And this poor woman who's trying to be serious, and she's cracking up. Roll some more of this videotape.
She was awesome.
Yes. Roll some more of the videotape.
Georgetown, so for us to just say it within the city limits.
Imagine if you had to deal with that. Oh, man. There she goes. That's not the end of it. No, it gets even better.
He's like so into it.
Yes. It is. I mean, she's almost half embarrassed over it, kind of like
So the thing with these things are, you have them on. Sometimes you forget to turn them off. Kind of like one time when Roy went to the bathroom and forgot to turn them off.
Yes.
It's not as funny when you live it and then rehearing it. again, it's kind of like it's traumatizing a little bit.
Roll the rest of the videotape of that because it gets to the end. It's really hilarious. As we're waiting for the tape to go. Bingo. Oh, that was the last one. I thought there was one more clip in it. No, that was. I mean, can you imagine doing that?
You were busy laughing over all of the noise.
Yes, it is. I mean when I first said that was my reaction, and it still is. That thing just cracks me up. And her reaction, she's trying to be serious and she can't. She's just like, "Oh man," and you can see the look on her face. What the heck do I do? I mean, I would have made a hell of a joke. I mean, I'd have played that one up. Pray tell, I could get in a situation. Oh, that would be funnier than I mean, the jokes you could have run with that one would have been absolutely off the charts. But that's hey, we got to have fun with this thing because the seriousness of what's going on with this whole coronavirus thing. And Gavin Newsom last night basically putting the whole state on lockdown very unnecessarily. The amount of economic damage and stuff this is going to come up with. And we got a report right now, and we're gonna have Mark Moyser on here in a few minutes to talk about the legal part of it and get his theory on it. But I just got a clip from or a news report. The latest estimates in the first quarter of GDP, which is gross domestic product of the whole United States, 6% down, which is only going to March is the first quarter. March. Or I should say, January, February, March is the first quarter. So March is the only one that's really going to have coronavirus, and we really weren't heavy into it. They're projecting GDP down 6%. That isn't the heck of it. The next quarter, which is April, May, June, is projected to be down 24%. 24%. Since they've come up with the modern statistics, I think in the 40s, the biggest quarter decline was the first quarter in 1958, which was down 10%, and they're projecting 24% GDP loss in the next quarter. That's going to be devastating of that on this going on. But to talk about the constitutional legal part of this surprise, and I think it caught a lot of people by surprise. Most people didn't know it was coming statewide, but the latest Gavin Newsom executive order last night that basically just shut the state down pretty much.
Can you even really do that?
Well, yeah, we're going to find out because
I'm excited to.
We have a constitutional attorney.
I don't want to believe it.
And on top of that, he was a candidate for Secretary of State of California in 2018, and it's a crying shame he didn't win. But Mark Moyser, welcome to the show with Stephanie and Roy.
Well, thank you for having me.
Hi, Mark.
So this little rendition that Gavin Newsom pulled off on that, you put out a little YouTube video last night, and from what I'm picking up, you're saying he really doesn't have the authority and or he really didn't say what he said.
Yes, well, let's go ahead and get into that. If you were to go to Gavin Newsom's Twitter account, you would see him say that I ordered everybody to shelter at home. And if you were to go to his press release, you would have heard him say shelter at home and that he's ordering everybody to do that. But guess what? What Gavin says, the law says, is not the law. You actually have to look at the executive order that he signed. And so the executive order that he signed, which is the law, says that he asked all Californians to heed the directives coming down from the public health authorities. Well, that word heed has a very unique meaning according to the Webster's dictionary. It does not mean obey. It does not mean order. What the word heed means is pay attention to, give consideration to. So basically what Gavin Newsom has done is he has basically said, in the official law of the state of California, I am commanding all Californians while you're making your decisions to pay attention to the advice being given to you by the public health authorities. That is not an order to stay home. That is that is advice. So then that brings us to the constitutionality of what the public health authorities are saying. The public health authorities are telling you exactly what code sections they are relying upon in order to give them the power to quarantine people and make them stay at home. The only problem is that those laws that they are using have been interpreted by courts. Not one court, not two, but 3 different courts have interpreted these laws, because this is not the first time that California has had a crisis, an epidemic, that public health officials have tried to issue quarantines. And what the courts in California have said is that in order for a public health official to issue a quarantine, the person that they are quarantining must have the virus, or they have a reasonable cause that the person might be infected by the virus. And they do not need a court order in order to quarantine somebody if they have probable cause, if they have a reasonable cause. If they do not have a probable cause, if they do not have a reasonable explanation why you, as an individual, have the virus or are likely to have the virus, they cannot deprive you of your liberties, of your constitutional rights. You see, the California Constitution is the supreme law of California. And the California Constitution, Article 1, Section 1, says that the legislature cannot deprive you of your liberties. They cannot deprive you of the opportunity to possess property and to obtain property. And by passing a quarantine that shuts down your business, what they are doing is they are depriving you of your liberty and your right to obtain property. And so, as such, these public health authorities, by quarantining everybody, that quarantine order is actually violating the Constitution. And let me give you an example of how. Let's say you had twin brothers. Let's say they're about 22 years old. They're going to the same college. They're getting the same degree. They have the same amount of student debt. One works at a grocery store and one works at a bar. What they are doing with these orders is they're saying, you know what, we're not going to jeopardize the right of a Californian to make money if they work at a grocery store. But because you work at a bar with no due process, you are going to be deprived of your ability to go where you want to go, when you want to do. We're going to deprive you of your ability to make a living.
So the first thing, and I like the part about the case precedents on that and the probable cause, and I get the part of the first paragraph on there where it says heed, and I get all that. But then in the second part of it, the executive order says, basically, I, Gavin Newsom, as the public health official, order X, Y, and Z, yada, yada, yada. So what I'm getting at, or what I need, or clarified in my mind, what is the first part that, because he's claiming he's the overall state health official in the state of California and he's declaring this, or that's what it seems like to me. Maybe I'm wrong.
Okay, the first paragraph is, I want you to heed the advice given by the public health officials. The second paragraph is, here is what the public health officials have ordered. So basically, is I want you to heed this advice, and just so you know what advice it is, here's the advice that they are saying. And, he said, yes, I asked them to go do this. Here's the deal, though. The Gavin Newsom, as governor of the state of California, has proclaimed a state of emergency. That is his right under the law, and on March 4th he did so. However, the authorities that he is entitled to are all enumerated in the code section. And one of those authorities is that he can put on hold any statute or any regulation. He is not allowed to deprive you of your constitutional rights. He has absolutely no right to deprive you of your constitutional rights.
And that's the supremacy clause in the United States Constitution. It is superior to the state of California Constitution.
The United States Constitution and the California Constitution are two different constitutions. As a United States citizen, you are under two constitutions, the United States Constitution and the Constitution of your state.
Right.
And what you got to think of it is as a double umbrella. So, even if this did not violate any United States article of the United States Constitution, but it violates an article of the California Constitution, the law is illegal. Every law passed by whether it's by Congress or by the state legislature, whether it's an executive order, has to pass the mustard of both a congressman's law doesn't have to pass a state constitution, but anything passed by a state legislature cannot violate your United States constitutional rights, and it cannot violate your state constitutional rights.
So, and that's where I get to that. Okay, we have First Amendment rights to free speech, freedom of assembly, right to redress our government, all that, 14th Amendment, like you're saying, probable cause. They just can't decide one day, okay, for any particular reason, in my understanding of the United States Constitution, yeah, you are quarantined or you can't move freely about in this country.
Are you talking about state or
on the U.S. Constitution, unless they declare martial law?
Yeah, and I'm not prepared to fully go into that because I was tasked with what Gavin was doing statewide.
Right.
So that's a whole different law, and as a lawyer, I'm very careful to. I mean, as you notice, I'm citing court precedents and actual statutes and stuff like that.
No, that just popped into my head while I'm thinking of this. How are they doing this on the statewide when we have that right to move freely across the across the all 50 states?
Yeah, and there's constitutional due process rights, and so the biggest thing is, we are treating two people similarly situated differently.
Yes,
you are jeopardizing somebody's liberties, somebody's property rights, and he is making the distinction as who has that right and who does not have the right, and unfortunately, he does not have that authority.
That's a very good point, and that's what I would say. If I want to take the risk of walking into a bar and ordering a drink for whatever reason, I should be able and allowed to do that. That is not only a natural or God-given right or whatever. That's protected in my view under the United States Constitution on down. So again, that's how I look at it. If I want to take the risk of walking in there, unless there is some sort of compelling reason, like I've said, or the only thing I can really think of that pops in my head is martial law for some reason. But sans that, what authority? Again, I agree with your analysis. They do not have the authority to tell us blanketly, well, we think you may have, or we may project you may have controversies. So in order of that, we are going to mandate that you stay home.
Well, let's just take this back, because I have a little saying, we are born Republicans. We are born to want liberty. We are born to, as a child, we don't want our parents telling us what to do. And you know what? Let's say you're a 5-year-old kid and the stove is on and mom tells you, don't touch the stove. It's hot.
Right.
If the 5-year-old goes and touches the stove, they're going to have consequences, right?
Correct.
They have to suffer those consequences. And guess what? Maybe they're going to pay better attention to their mom in the future, right?
Correct.
But inside of each and every one of us, there is a little, there's a desire to have our liberties and desire not to have people telling us what to do. Unfortunately, it seems that we have become as a society where we're so expecting the government to tell us what to do. We have been warned. If you want to go out there and, hang around a steam room with a bunch of people who have the virus, you're stupid.
Right.
Yes.
But, should the government be telling you that, you shouldn't go into work when you have an office that is 10 feet by 10 feet and you could shut the door? Why are you deprived of your ability to go to work because you're not essential, even though you could do so in such a way that's safe from everybody?
Yeah, I mean, that's the part that just drives me crazy.
That's where it's like, why are they going so far with this? That's where it kind of freaks me out a little bit. And I think that's where everybody's panic is coming from. Why are we shutting down? Because we've never seen this happen before. And I find it so ridiculous.
Well, there's going to be some serious consequences to this. I mean, if you remember back in 2008, this state almost went bankrupt because of the stock market crash.
Yes.
What's going to happen with this stock market crash and the city's inability to pay the pensions because the stock market is not producing? And now, because everybody can't work, they don't have money to go spend. And because they don't have money to go spend, the local cities do not collect a sales tax. And if what happens now is what happened in 2008, property values are going to fall, and that means now the cities are going to collect less on property taxes. So what's going to happen here is that the city's revenues are going to greatly decrease through the stock market, through sales tax, through property tax. And guess what? They're now not going to be able to pay the pensions, and so our cities are going to have to lay off firefighters and police officers in order to pay their pension debts, which they can't bankrupt those pension debts or whatever. So there's going to be some serious consequences that the politicians, in their rush to run out there and claim that they're doing something, they are actually just destroying the economy, and they're actually hurting those people who they pretend that they're trying to protect.
You said, and I don't know if you heard the Goldman Sachs report today, they are projecting the first quarter GDP down 6%, which is only March, basically, with the coronavirus. They're projecting 24% decline in the second quarter of GDP over this. This is going to be catastrophic for most everyone if this happens.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of, there's going to be a lot of people hurt by this.
And I think, as you're saying, not only unnecessarily, but impossibly, illegally, what they're doing here, violating our rights. I mean, it's astounding of how. What has me concerned is how many people, or how it seems like a greater number of people are just accepting this.
Yeah, well, all you have to do is go to my Facebook page and look at that video that I did yesterday night when I explained this, and you're going to see tons of people who saying that, I'm crazy and I should shut up. I'm not saying
people
that
get mad
we shouldn't.
When you talk about it and say that everything's going to be okay, they yell at you and attack you. It's crazy.
Yeah, you know what? I'm used to it. Having run for office, I'm used to people having different opinions than me. But it is scary how many people have checked in their brain and are just, government knows best, so I must do it. I guarantee you that the same people who say government knows best did not think that their parents knew best when they were 13 years old.
And they touched that hot stove.
Yes, they did. No, it's very concerning to me on that. One last thing, we got a couple minutes left. Do you know of, or are you planning on, or know of somebody that's planning on filing a case against this or something to put it in the courts, or is that in the works, or what's your theory on that?
I have had a couple people reach out to me. Some people are saying I'm not the proper plaintiff, but I would consider help funding such a lawsuit. And I have other people who are saying, who are looking at the possibility of suing. if your business has been shut down, you may be a prime plaintiff for a case like this. And, whether you contact my firm, the Dillon Law Group, or contact your local attorney, you ought to be taking a very serious look, because these politicians need a wake-up call.
I couldn't agree more, and I mean, I think the only, or probably the best option, maybe not the only one, sans our politicians gaining a little bit of common sense in this thing. But yeah, I think at this point it looks like the only relief we may get from this is in the court system.
Crazy.
Yeah, I mean, we got to tell the politicians that they don't have, just because there's a crisis, that does not give them the ability to deprive somebody of their constitutional rights. So,
last question before I let you go. Are you running for Secretary of State again in 2022?
My answer that I am telling everybody is I am not on any ballots in 2020, and we'll worry about the future after the 2020 election.
Oh, that's a good answer.
Spoken like a true politician. Thanks a lot, Mark Moyser, for giving us an update on that and put some clarity in that. And I hope the case does hit the courts on this, because I think and your message of and that's what we're trying to do, is get that message out and give people an alternative view of this, and maybe some hope in this ever increasingly concerning situation that's going on.
Well, thanks for having me, and let's get out there and fight the good fight. America will recover. We recovered after 9/11. We recovered after World War II. We recovered after the Great Depression. America will recover from this.
Amen.
You got it. Thanks a lot, Mark.
Mark.
Okay, bye.
I really hope that what he's saying, not just maybe in the courts, but I hope public opinion starts turning this way, because he made some very great points.
He really did.
And the bottom line, the government, and I've said this a lot, the government gives you something is a government that can take it away, and that's what we're seeing right now. If you become dependent on the government or somebody else, then basically they own you. They get to dictate what, how, and why you're doing, and that's what has me more concerned about anything, is the slow increments, and I can't even say it.
Incrementation?
Incrementalism that's
know.
going in,
that word.
stepping down.
We're playing Taboo. We're going to become a game show.
Yes, of that. We're it's just like drip, drip, drip. They take away a little bit of your liberty every day. Pretty soon they've got it stripped from you.
Really quick, this just came in tomorrow, I believe. He said Saturday, so I'm going to double check on the date. But the farmers market in downtown Riverside will be back. That is awesome.
Yes, well, they are exempted.
I'm so happy to hear that.
In the executive order, farmers markets are exempt from being closed down.
And they offer WIC and EBT services are available, and that is off Main Street and 5th from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. And he says if you are sick, send someone in your behalf, make quick transactions, and this is just amazing. Go out and support our local farmers, because they really need all the help, and our small businesses too.
And I hope the one on Thursday in Moreno Valley, and I know Redlands has a big one, I think on Thursday evening in downtown that's really good. I hope those all stay going. I think the Hemet one was canceled out for tomorrow. I'm not sure, but I think that one was canceled out, and I don't know why. Because, like I say, they were under whether the executive order sans Mark Moyser's theory is right, sans the theory on that, whether it was legal or not. Under the executive order, is my understanding that farmers markets were exempt from the shutdown, which is weird. Have you been to the grocery store lately? If there's a place where people are less than 6 feet or crowded in together anywhere spreading coronavirus, it's in the supermarkets right now, if it's possible to be spread.
Susan writes in, I think the government is only looking out for us. Some of us aren't too smart. I think in somewhat of an overkill, but
1 minute.
Sense. I'm not happy about small businesses suffering. Very hard time for them. I hope this is all over soon. Hi, Sean.
Hi.
Why? Oh, hi, Sean. I was in the middle of reading a thing. He said 1 minute, and I always get told not to. I always say hi to Sean. Sean's my favorite person here. Sean's the only reason why I come in. Everybody knows this. Anyways.
30 seconds.
Thank you, Sean. I appreciate it.
Nice way of trying to dig yourself out of this hole.
I was reading a comment. Susan from Hooper Valley, you just got me in trouble with Sean. Call in and
blame it on someone else.
I am. I'm blaming it on my mother. It's allowed.
All right, guys, here we go. 10 seconds.
Thank you, Sean.
Smartphone apps. Go to KMET1490am.com and download your free phone app today.
IE Newswire Daily is on the air.
The following is a paid program. Views and claims expressed are those of the program producer and are not endorsed by this station. Opinions expressed are not necessarily those of radio station KMET, its management, employees, or affiliates.
Guitar music coming in on one of the declared essential businesses is why we're sitting here in the studio when a lot of people are locked in their homes, out of work, or on that, or soon to be out of work over this absolute idiotic executive order that Gavin Newsom sprung on everybody, which was like a surprise. The one in L.A. County at 5:30 was pretty well telegraphed, or we knew what was coming. Very few people knew about this one coming in at 6 o'clock at Gavin Newsom. We had constitutional attorney Mark Moser on, who told us maybe this whole little executive order thing is not legally enforceable anyway. So we can
leave our house.
Yes, hopefully we'll do that.
If you're healthy. Don't put germs.
And we can end these freaked out Fridays that are going on in here.
I did not catch that at all.
Yes, I saw you. You didn't pick up that telegraph. Coming in as we're on the Mighty Met 1490 to end this one crazy week coming on. Our next expert who we had coming up on, or who we had up on Wednesday on that, we're going to have Dr. Kelly Victory on here pretty soon, I think, to give us an update. We were going to do it next week, but in light of this Gavin Newsom executive order that just came down that's got everybody, asking questions in a panic, wondering what the heck is going on, doing that. It's absolutely incredulous of this. So we scheduled Dr. Kelly Victory. She's a trauma surgeon, consultant to Walgreens and many, many others, disaster preparedness expert. We've had her back on since Wednesday. As I said, man, we were going to do this next week, but with this Gavin Newsom bombshell that come off, Stephanie and I just decided, man, we got to get Dr. Kelly back on here to shed some light on this because, man, people are just panicking all over the place. Do we have Dr. Kelly on?
Hi.
Yeah, that was your intro to come in there.
Terrific.
Yes.
Hi, great to be with you. You are right, I believe, in using the word panic. This has just gotten to be more and more insane every day. Let me start by saying once again, it is not that I believe in any way, shape, or form that this virus isn't real, that there aren't people legitimately becoming ill, and that, frankly, that we won't have a number of deaths. Very similar to how we do every year with different strains of influenza. Just to put things in perspective, we've already had 16,000 deaths in the United States this year from influenza. In the state of California, we've had over 600 deaths from influenza, compared to 21 deaths from coronavirus. So when I look at the difference in the response, it just defies logic for us to have a shutdown of the entire state, essentially, and all of the impact that that's going to have on the economy, socially, psychologically, and the unbelievable fallout. It just is a response that is so out of proportion in my mind to the actual risk that it defies logic.
If you do 21 divided by 40 million, like I said, you have to go to the 6th decimal. And if you want to do that in a mathematical term, that is 0.4 of a 10% of the population that has died of coronavirus in California.
Right. And the bottom line is, right, is that the chances are that a huge number of people have been exposed. And people say, oh my gosh, that's all. I say, no, that's actually a really good thing. That's great. We want a lot of people to have been exposed to this because, frankly, it's not a particularly lethal virus for most people. We know that there is a subset of people for whom this particular virus can be quite serious, but it's not guesswork. We know who those people are. They are generally, we keep saying, over the age of 65, but in all reality, most of the people who have died have been significantly older than that and have had some underlying health issues, lung issues, cardiac issues, or problems with their immune systems. So the idea that lots of people have been exposed is actually a good thing because as young, healthy people become exposed, they develop antibodies and they become immune to it. And that's what we want to keep the population healthy.
I was kind of thinking the same thing, too. Like, I mean, you hear about chickenpox back in the day. Your parents would have chickenpox parties to get their kids the chickenpox so that way they got it, they moved on, and they were back in school because they didn't want to get it when they're older. Why aren't we doing something similar to that?
Well, we should be, frankly. I mean, if you think of it, any time we launch a vaccine for something, whether it's measles or chickenpox or whatever it is, the reason we do that is we say we want the vast majority of the population to be immunized to something because then we can protect that handful of people who can't get immunized, either because they're allergic to the vaccine or they've got a problem that keeps them from being able to be immunized. Another way to immunize people, other than giving them a vaccine, is for them to get exposed to the thing, to be exposed to the illness. And assuming it's not a particularly severe illness, they will develop antibodies all on their own. And so it's kind of like getting vaccinated. You go out, you get exposed to coronavirus, you get the sniffles or a sore throat or a headache and body aches for 2 or 3 or 5 days, and then lo and behold, you develop antibodies. So in my mind, when I look at what Gavin Newsom and other governors are doing, and so many of the politicians across the country, shutting things down, sheltering in place, trying to essentially quarantine the entire population, all we are doing is delaying the inevitable. We're keeping people from becoming exposed to it or trying to, thinking we're going to. And that is, I believe, a highly flawed way to go about this. We would be far better off trying to protect that small subset of people who actually are at high risk. Why in the world you would take young, healthy, able-bodied people out of the workforce and try to keep them home while decimating the economy makes no sense at all. Exactly. If you got grandparents or folks with underlying health conditions, try to keep them away from it and keep them healthy. But everybody else ought to go about their business.
One of the justifications Gavin Newsom made for signing this executive order is 25 million people in California could get this or be exposed, and even Trump mentioned it in the press conference. Well, the death rate could be, I don't know if he mentioned it, but I think Gavin, or they were hinting around, or the guy that looked like the mortician that was with Gavin Newsom on there that was supposed to be the expert, in my opinion, of that. They were trying to intimate that the death rate might be 100,000, a million, if nothing was done or this quarantine was not in place. What do you have to say about that?
Well, to take the first point, that 25 million people in the state of California could be exposed, that's slightly more than 50%, and I think that that's right. And I think that that's a good thing. I'm suspecting that of the 330 million people in the United States, if we let things just go about their way, probably half the country's already been exposed, 150 million. And that is why I believe that the mortality rate is actually far, far, far smaller than we are reporting it to be. The issue when we report the death rate on this thing is that the only number we are certain of is the number of people who died. We don't know what number we're dividing that by. So we know that in the country right now, we have 256 deaths. What we don't know is out of how many people who have the disease. Right now, they're saying, well, we know it's about 20,000 people have been tested, but it's probably 20 million people who actually have it. So the actual mortality rate for this is really, I suspect, relatively low and probably right about on par with the seasonal flu. As I said, why in the world is Gavin Newsom why are other governors not absolutely losing their mind, running around with their hair on fire about the seasonal flu?
Exactly.
Yes, that's the $64 gazillion question.
And I think that's where people are panicking, is why is it becoming such a big deal? Are they hiding something? Like, it becomes a conspiracy theory in a way.
Yes, it does. And I think the answer is no. For some reason, they are responding to this one. And part of, I think, one of my theories is that it's really the first pandemic we have had in the current internet 24/7 social media age, when if it bleeds, it leads. And so people get very excited about things. It doesn't matter if it's gun violence or climate change or, in this case, coronavirus. People love the sensational because it's very, very popular, and it gets people to listen, and people start tweeting out and texting out all kinds of things. We are fomenting panic, and panic is never a good place to make, decisions from. You never do the right thing when you're in that state of mind, and I think this has been a tremendous disservice to public health. We've had far, far, far more concerning things. We've had outbreaks of everything from measles in California. We had, for the love of God, we've had typhus outbreaks in Los Angeles and San Francisco as a result of people defecating on the streets, and the rat infestation that's happened because of homelessness, and nobody's losing their mind about the fact that we, are likely going to see a case of bubonic plague sometime in the next 9 to 12 months as a result of the rat problem. Instead, we are, losing our minds and shutting down the entire economy as a result of a virus that, in all estimation, is severe. It's like having a very bad flu season from what we can tell so far.
It's interesting you bring up the typhus part in that, because that's basically, like you said, or from my understanding of that, is where homelesses have been defecating, urinating in the street, drug needles and all that, and we've heard all the reports about LA. But the report I heard is 10 counties in the United States have 50% of all the cases in that. And they're basically in New York City, LA, San Francisco, and Seattle. Now, where is the big homeless population, this epidemic breaking out? I don't know if there's a correlation to this, but that just made me pause to go, when all this stuff started breaking out.
Well, there's no question that the typhus outbreak is absolutely related to rodent infestations that are common because of the homelessness. Typhus and bubonic plague both are carried by fleas that are associated with rodents, rats in particular, and that is absolutely becoming more and more of a problem. Now, where you're seeing the initial outbreaks of the coronavirus in this country, there's no question was related to a corridor between those U.S. cities and China. Specifically, in the Pacific Northwest, in Washington State, Oregon, Northern California, you're seeing it's that travel corridor between Asia and the U.S. And then subsequently, we saw the big outbreaks in New York City. And because it is a very contagious virus, it spreads very quickly. One of the theories about why there was such a huge outbreak in Italy, particularly in Lombardy, is because, again, they had a strong connection. They have a strong connection to Wuhan, China. There's leather manufacturing and refining done in that area of Italy. and they have a big connection with Wuhan. So there was a large number of Chinese folks who had traveled to that area of Italy. And, and so they had a large sort of inoculation, if you will, of the virus there.
Yeah, it just struck me as are they worried about something going on? Is there something underlying this? Because as you said, and what has been distressing me, though, is I've been hearing more experts saying, oh, yes, we should be quarantining. This is a great thing that's happening in California, New York.
It's kind of like a test run.
Yeah, and I'm hearing less and less, like what you're saying, which has been the common thing that is eliminated or, doing that is let this thing spread, let the immune system of the people kill this thing off, build up the antibodies to it, and, away we go. I don't know. It's very concerning to me that hearing all the experts, doctors, and this, just all of a sudden marching down this tune that we got to quarantine and all this, and this is a good thing.
Well, a couple of points I would make are, number one, this is hardly the first and will hardly be the last novel virus that comes our way.
Right.
We are getting better and better at being able to identify them. Undoubtedly, in years past, we had novel viruses that we simply hadn't identified. We just wrote it off to, this was a really bad flu year. Instead of the typical 22 or 25,000 deaths, we had 60,000 deaths nationally. So it was just a really, quote, bad flu year, when in fact it was actually due to some other, quote, novel virus that we hadn't identified. Now that we're good at identifying them, for the love of God, if this is the way that we intend to react, we are in a heap of trouble.
Yeah.
You can't run a country this way. You can't remain a global power this way. You can't run anything this way. And so it is not sustainable. Then on top of it, what I would ask these public health officials who are making these recommendations about sheltering in place and, safer at home, which is, I think, the California byline, safer at home, is what's the end game?
Yes.
What's the end game? At some point, this needs to end, right? I mean, presumably the intention isn't that we are all going to live in a hermetically sealed bubble for the remainder of time. So,
not a bad idea.
Is it right? And so the virus isn't just going to do a deep dive, and kill itself. It's still going to be there. So, at what point? Now you're going to take all these people, say everybody pays attention and everybody is a dutiful citizen and stays home and doesn't come in contact with anybody else until they, give the green light. Great. Now all these people are going to walk out who presumably haven't been exposed to the virus. None of them will have immunity to it. And we just start this whole thing over again.
You cracked me up about the hermetically sealed, because I think it was a Bugs Bunny or an old Looney Tunes that had a comic deal about that. That just brings back memories from a long time. But no, this is what I've said, and
I'm going to live in a bubble.
Yeah, you probably won't live very long.
We should sell them, though. You know how much we'd make?
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, the hermetically sealed bubble. Yeah, that you'll never get anything.
Business opportunities.
Yeah, you'll be protected on that. But Goldman Sachs just came out with a report. In the first quarter, they're projecting GDP, gross domestic product, in the United States in the first quarter, which is only basically March, is in this coronavirus, down 6%. But the stunning figure they came out with is GDP down 24% in the second quarter in April, May, and June on that. The devastation this is going to have, not only the economy of California, but across the nation, is going to be, off the charts.
Yes, it is. And I've said more than once, and I really mean it. I'm not trying to be hyperbolic. There are far more people who are going to die as a result of the economic devastation here because they jump off a bridge than from the virus itself.
Seriously?
There are many, many small businesses that will never recover from this. There are many small businesses that were about to be launched that will never make it to the launching pad. There are homes that were about to be purchased that won't happen. Yes. Vacations that were going to be had that will never be rescheduled. It will take months, years, or perhaps, decades for us to recover from this. And I think that's a shame because it isn't the way that we should have responded. If I hear the phrase "out of an abundance of caution" one more time, I'm going to just puke. They keep saying this, and honestly, I think they have done a disservice not only to the economy, but it is not good medical practice. It's not good public health practice, and I really want to know what they believe their end game is, because I don't see a good extraction plan from this.
So with the little puke comment, you got a little hillbilly in you somewhere?
No, but I did go. Hardly, but I did go to school in North Carolina. So
well, yeah, that'll count. Because
occasionally I could put it back on.
There you go. I mean, that's what I call myself.
Out of all of that, that's what he takes from.
Yes, well, because I call myself the Ditch Bank Okie from Edgemont, California.
Yeah.
Of that, so I mean, that's just kind of my. I've kind of adopted that personality of stuff and that. But no, sometimes it takes that kind of a language or stuff. I'm hoping that are going to shake people up a little bit because again, that's what I look at. They're not projecting. Okay, they're focusing everybody on these wild projections of if 25 million people get exposed to this, the death rate could be hundreds of thousands in California. They're not telling you what the devastating impact this will have on everybody's life if this continues. Not only that, shortening of life. If this thing. I will tell you this, since I think the 40s when they've come up with the modern statistics on GDP, 1958, the first quarter, was the largest single drop we've had, and that was 10%. If we have a 24% drop in one quarter in GDP, I mean, you're talking not only serious recession, you're talking depression area statistics.
Mm-hmm. Right, and I believe honestly, and I may have said this the other night, that most people, I believe, are like I am, where saying we are willing to do whatever level of sacrifice is required of us if we believe that the actions we are taking, no matter how painful, will actually result in the intended outcome. If you said to me, we're going to do this and it's going to be painful and we're going to take an economic hit, but it is going to be successful in whatever, saving, 100 million lives across the globe or something of that sort. But what we are doing right now defies logic because it is only delaying the inevitable. We know that it's actually a better plan to get young, healthy people exposed to whatever relatively mild virus this is, so that some people will at least develop at least partial immunity to whatever this thing is, and then to not absolutely decimate the economy. When they made the governor of Colorado, where I also practice, just made a mandate that we have to cancel all elective surgeries until the third week of April, and I'm thinking, for what reason would you cancel all surgeries? And they're saying, well, it's because we want to save resources in case. I'm saying, right, but there aren't tens of thousands or even hundreds of people needing to be in the hospital right now. So why wouldn't you just kind of take it day by day or even week by week and say, okay, if we get to the point where we are reaching maximum capacity or where there's a lot of pressure on the hospital resources, then we might have to cancel elective surgeries. Why would you do it a month in advance and say, I can't operate on you tomorrow for the knee replacement that you've been waiting for the past 2 months? Why? There's no reason to cancel that surgery. There's nobody in the hospital right now in Colorado with coronavirus.
Yes. Right. And then all that's going to do is make a stack up on that, or people are not going to be able to get it or somewhat of that. And again, it's going to turn, again, I agree with you. This whole thing on its surface does not make any sense. And I really, I mean, I hope Goldman Sachs is really off on these projections, but I suspect that they might be on that. We got about a minute left. Wrap it up or tell any folks anything you want. And I want to hold you to this. I still want to get you on next week because I'm sure this is going to be a hot topic for weeks to come.
It is. It's going to be all coronavirus all the time for a while. I guess all I would encourage your listeners is to, as much as possible, I'm not suggesting that this is a hoax or in any way not real, but if you are healthy and otherwise don't have underlying health conditions, I would encourage people as much as possible to go about their business. Socialize as much as you can amongst your family and friends. Continue to maintain the faith. I am very concerned about the social and psychological impact of this, the stress and anxiety that people are suffering from. Get off your phones, get off Twitter and Facebook and Instagram, play Monopoly or Scrabble or read a good book, do something else, get outside, take a walk, walk the dog. Play a round of golf if you can find a golf course that's open, and remember this will pass, but it is being hyped up beyond what really far beyond the real risk, and people should not become panicked.
I swear I must be the male equivalent cloned of you because I've been saying this stuff, especially the cell phone stuff. I've been like, people get rid of these stupid things. They're driving you nuts.
They are, and it's really just creating panic, and I'm watching it happen. It's escalating more than ever, and it's not a good thing for anybody. And I think we need to return life to normal as quickly as possible, and hopefully the numbers will start to decrease, and they will come up with a better exit strategy. I fear that our public health officials have boxed themselves into a corner, and they're going to need a way to get out of this and save face.
You got it. We'll do it again next week. Is that a deal?
Love that. It's a deal.
You got it. We'll have you on again to give you your insights because they absolutely need to get out. Thank you for being on, Dr. Kelly Victory.
Thank you.
That was fun, wasn't it?
It was.
Stay well.
Yes.
I had a bunch of stuff I wanted to talk about that we didn't get to. Make sure you go and get your grab-and-go lunches Monday through Friday, 11 to 1 at all school sites in Moreno Valley Unified, and go to mvusd.net to get school stuff for your children so they can still learn. And bring them to Roy's studio because he's got a lot for them to do. We're gone.